Thank you. Could I ask those members who are not participating in the debate and leaving the chamber to please do so quickly and quietly so we can move on to the final item of business. Thank you. So, the final item of business is a members' business debate on motion 16901 in the name of Jamie Halcroft-Johnson on Scotland's islands. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put, and I would invite those members who would wish to speak in the debate to please press the request to speak buttons, and I call on Jamie Halcroft-Johnson to open the debate. Up to 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Can I firstly draw members' attention to my register of interest as a partner in a farming business in Orkney? Can I also thank everybody who signed my motion, and can I welcome all those in the public gallery today, many of whom live and work on Scotland's islands and who represent island businesses from across a variety of sectors, both traditional and representing more new technologies. Deputy Presiding Officer, when I was young and at university in England, my friends used to ask me about what living on a Scottish island was like. Do you have roads? They asked. Well, yes. Do you have supermarkets? Yeah, of course we do. Do you have electricity? Well, most of the time. Perhaps without social media, the misconceptions of our islands were more understandable then. But some remain today, both with the wider public, but also with those in public life, including some politicians, who don't always fully comprehend some of the challenges of island life. So today I want to take you on a journey to Scotland's islands, communities scattered across the North Sea, the Atlantic and other areas, from Orkney and Shetland in the north to the Hebrides and Arran further south, and many more, of course. These islands are more than just postcard scenery. They represent vibrant communities with unique economies, stubborn challenges, and some truly inspiring things happening right now. Scotland's inhabited islands, home to just over 100,000 people, rely on a mix of traditional and emerging industries. Fishing and farming have long been the backbone of many. In Shetland, where I was last week, the fishing fleet hauls in millions of pounds worth of catch every year, while in Orkney, where I'll be next week, our beef and lamb are prized across the UK. And I say ours because I'm proud to be part of Orkney's farming community that puts such brilliant produce on tables right across the country. The food and drink sector and tourism are still big players. Distilleries on Islay, Jura and Rassi, to name but a very small few, producing whisky exported right across the world, but which also draws visitors globally. Or the wonders of Skara Brae in Orkney, or the Callanish Stones on Lewis, the Jarlshof in Shetland, world-renowned sites. These traditional industries don't just keep the lights on. They're the lifeblood of island identity and a vital part of our island economies. But if you'll excuse the pun, it's not all plain sailing. The challenges are real and they hit hard. Connectivity is a perennial headache. Ferries are lifelines for our island communities, but ageing fleets, with many vessels in urgent need of replacement, have led to increased unreliability and amended schedules. This is, of course, most devastating on the CalMac network serving the West Coast. It's sometimes hard to really bring home to people who don't live on islands that delays and cancellations aren't just inconvenient, they disrupt supply chains, healthcare access and local businesses. Then, I will, of course.
Liam MacArthur.
I thank Jamie Halcroft-Johnson not just for taking the intervention, but for securing this debate and indeed for the work he's been doing on the CPG. I think the point he's made in relation to the importance of places like Orkney and Shetland and the islands on the west coast to our food and drink sector, but to our energy sector, to our tourism sector, suggests that the investment that is made, whether it's in transport infrastructure or digital infrastructure or any of these other investments, are about allowing both our islands to fulfil their potential, but for Scotland to fulfil their potential. This is not about subsidising islands. This is about releasing their potential so that the country as a whole can fulfil its own potential.
Jamie Halcroft-Johnson.
Thank Liam MacArthur for that contribution. I couldn't agree with it more, and I think that's something that's come up in the round tables that we've held today as well. Islands don't need handouts. What islands want is to be able to be supported and be given those opportunities to find a lot of the solutions, but actually make that massive contribution that they already do to Scotland's wider economy. I think that's a really important point to make. Then there's the threat of depopulation. Young people often leave for education or jobs on the mainland and don't come back, or they can't come back because there aren't the homes available to move into. That can leave behind ageing communities, but without the people who need to provide the care for the ageing population. In places like Barra, the population shrunk by a third since the 1980s. Add to that the high cost of living, fuel, food and house pricing higher than in urban Scotland, and you've got a recipe for resilience tested daily. Climate change looms large too. Rising sea levels threaten low-lying areas like parts of the Outer Hebrides, where storms batter infrastructure. Yet these challenges aren't the whole story, because Scotland Islands are fighting back, and they're doing it with ingenuity that's frankly astonishing. Let's talk about the amazing things happening. Renewable energy is a game-changer. Orkney's become a global pioneer in green tech. Its tidal and wind projects generate more electricity than the islands can use, exporting surplus to the mainland. The European Marine Energy Centre, where there is testing wave and tidal devices that could power the world someday. The Reflex project in Orkney also looked at how to reuse or use renewable energy better, to better link what's produced with demand, working to ensure more efficient use of energy and less waste. But it's even more remarkable than that, because Shetland, and again, excuse the pun, is boldly going where no Scottish island has gone before. When I last visited the site a year or so after becoming an MSP, it was hard to picture it as anything more than a good place to keep sheep. But the Saxe-Ford spaceport on Uns is the first fully licensed vertical launch spaceport in Europe, designed for small rockets to deliver payloads into low Earth orbit. Again, I don't want to overuse the Star Trek references, but I'm going to. Scotland's islands are pioneers in conquering space, the final frontier. Then there's innovation in food and drink. Aaron's Craft Gin and Harris Tweed and Gin Combo are turning heritage into profit. And culture, the islands punch right above their weight. Shetland's Up Heliar Fire Festival draws thousands, while Gaelic music from the Hebrides echoes worldwide, with the Western Isles hosting the Mod in 2027. Skye is home to Salma Rostig, Scotland's Gaelic College, and it's also the home, or the original place from that Kirsty Beaton, the 2020 Musician of the Year, at the Traditional Music Award hails from. And if you're coming to the Island Showcase after this event, then you'll be able to hear Kirsty play her harp. Our islands produce amazing sports people too. I will, for modesty reasons, not highlight my own sporting successes, nor those of laughing fellow Orcadian MSP Liam MacArthur or Neil Gray. However, my ancestor did play for Scotland in one of the first rugby internationals, while Shetland hosted the Island Games in 2005, and Orkney will host the Games this July, in only 100 days' time, welcoming athletes from island communities across the world. And more generally, Scotland's islanders have left these shores to explore the world, including John Ray, who was a notable explorer, but one much overshadowed, unfortunately. Others have left Scotland, not always through choice, of course, and some of their descendants have reached remarkable heights. One descendant, I understand, has quite a big job in American politics at the moment, although today is maybe not the best day to be hailing those connections. But it does highlight that what ties this all together is the people. Island communities are tight-knit, fiercely proud. They're not waiting for handouts, they're building solutions. Scotland's islands have an entrepreneurial spirit, a can-do attitude that is often breathtaking. Deputy Presiding Officer, Scotland's islands are a paradox, small in size but massive in achievement and in potential for future success. Their economies blend old and new, their challenges demand action, and their innovations light the way forward. They remind us that even on the edges of a nation, big things can happen. Let's celebrate them, support them and learn from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Halker-Johnson. We will now move to the open debate. I would advise members that, given the late start to the debate, I will be looking to members to stick to their agreed speaking time of up to 4 minutes. I call Kenneth Gibson, to be followed by Douglas Ross. Mr Gibson. Thank
you, Presiding Officer. I congratulate Jamie Halker-Johnson in securing this debate and for sponsoring this evening's Islands Showcase event. And I'm privileged to represent 3 inhabited islands. Arran, with its stunning scenery, mountains, forests, waterfalls, beaches and unique geology, led it to be dubbed Scotland in miniature. Across Lamlash Bay, Holy Isle is a spiritual heritage dating from the 6th century and is now owned by a Tibetan Buddhist community. Last but not least is Cumbria, wherein Millport is consistently named one of Scotland's most charming towns. And Cumbria's natural beauty, abundant outdoor activities and rich cultural heritage draw in many thousands of visitors each year. But our islands are far more than just picturesque landscapes and visit destinations. They host unique, vibrant communities that embody a strong sense of togetherness, where people grow up, grow old and build their lives. Not without challenges, though. We need real improvements in Lifeline ferry services. Arran and Cumbria are more integrated with the mainland than many other islands, yet this is rarely recognised as it should be. For example, free inter-island ferry travel was introduced for young people in Orkney, Shetland and the Outer Hebrides, but not in North Ayrshire, Argyll and Bute or the Highlands. For young islanders travelling from Brodick to Ardrossan, Millport to Largs and Iona to Mull, ferry routes are more akin to mainland bus travel and take place wholly within their respective council areas. There is no fairness in only partially rolling out this policy. On vessel deployment, there have been instances this year of the MV Glensannox being the sole vessel serving Arran from Ayrshire. As this ship can't yet sail from Ardrossan, it sails from Troon, turning a 55-minute journey into 80 minutes and reducing the number of return trips per day from 5 to 3. Troon Harbour's facilities are as poor as its accessibility, and it's difficult for islanders and day trippers to travel to the mainland and back in one day for appointments or a meaningful visit. Aranax look forward to the MV Caledonian Isles return and restoration of services from Ardrossan, hopefully later this month. Ardrossan is far superior to Troon, not least regarding public transport links, and local communities need certainty over Ardrossan Harbour's long-term future. While I very much welcomed the Cabinet Secretary's announcement 43 days ago that the Scottish Government will work to bring the port into public ownership, we need to see results sooner rather than later. So far, we have no indication of when such seemingly open-ended discussions with Peel Ports will conclude or who is negotiating on behalf of the Government. I trust the Minister will advise in summing up. On Cumbria, while the journey time to Largs is only 10 minutes, the island is only one engine fault away from hours-long queues. The delivery of 7 new small vessels through Phase 1 of the Small Ferry Replacement Programme will benefit Cumbria through the cascading of existing ferries, with a new vessel for Cumbria expected thereafter. An update on that would be appreciated. Despite the challenges, our islands are home to remarkable innovation and ambition, with businesses, social enterprises and volunteers leading the way. Distilleries in Lachrans and Lag produce whisky celebrated internationally. Arran Dairy's ice cream and Taste of Arran are recognised brands of high-quality produce, from Brodick to Houston, Texas. Ochrani is a testament to the success of community-focused business models. As Scotland's first employee-owned resort, it provides exceptional service while ensuring its success is shared with the local community. Arran Development Trust has just built, almost completed, 18 affordable homes with a £1,512,000 grant from the Scottish Government. Carbon Neutral Cumbria, as part of the Carbon Neutral Islands project, has already delivered substantial results, including a 330% increase in rooftop solar energy generating capacity and £600,000 in energy efficiencies. Cumbria Community Development Company continues to enhance the island's appeal through community-driven projects such as the regeneration of Millport Town Hall. Their efforts are focused on improving local amenities and creating vibrant spaces that benefit both residents and visitors. Presiding Officer, Scotland's islands have an incredible amount to offer. It's no surprise they consistently identify among our happiest communities and the best places to grow old or raise children. Their strong community bonds and stunning natural environments create an unparalleled quality of life. By supporting these communities, we ensure future generations of islanders can continue to thrive, preserving the unique heritage and spirit of our islands for years and years to come.
Thank you, Mr Gibson. I now call Douglas Ross to be followed by Rhoda Grant. Mr Ross.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. It's a pleasure speaking to today's debate, and can I congratulate Jamie Halcrow-Johnson for securing the debate the way he has opened it tonight, and also the work he's done in the lead-up to today and the roundtables that have been held through the afternoon, and I know the very successful reception Parliament will host later on this evening. And can I also welcome members of the public to the gallery who have come from Scotland's various islands to their Parliament to hear the important issues for them being discussed. It's a privilege as a member for the Highlands and Islands to represent so many island communities, and I was reflecting ahead of this debate some of the highlights I've had going around the islands that I represent. Up in Shetland, I met with skippers in Lerwick from our pelagic fleet and heard about the challenges they have, but also the opportunities. In Orkney, I've seen some of the amazing world-leading marine energy technologies that are being developed there. In the Western Isles, I was abused by a taxi driver for a decision I gave in a no-firm match, and I was pleased that my notoriety had gone from the pitches in Glasgow out to the Western Isles. And everywhere you go in the Highlands and Islands, even when you're being criticised for certain things, you always get a friendly and welcome reception. I think it's important, however, that we look at some of the challenges, and Kenny Gibson was right to mention some of the issues around ferries in his own constituency, and that is something that is often raised with those of us who represent the Highlands and Islands. Another issue that Jamie Halcrow-Johnson touched on, and I'm sure the Minister will mention, is depopulation. And I was looking at the National Records for Scotland data, and it shows that more than 1 in 10 residents of the Orkney Islands of North Ronaldsay, Sandy and Stronsay, who together make up one data zone, 1 in 10 of those residents of those islands left between 2010 and 2021. Meanwhile, the proportion of residents in these islands aged 65 or older grew at twice the rate of those aged 16 and under. So not only are people leaving these islands, but those who remain tend to be of an older age, and we're not getting enough younger people coming into these islands who are absolutely vital to ensure that we can keep these islands vibrant and encouraging more young people and families to come to them. My own family are big fans of This Farming Life, and we're watching this recent series at the moment, and a family up in Papa Westray who have their own challenges in terms of the mother in that family had to leave the island with her family to give birth to their 4th child. But again, that show, I think, is also helpful to show the amazing benefits of living in these more remote and rural island communities. And I think that's something that we should be very proud of and something we should promote more. I think Jamie Halcrow-Johnson mentioned the spaceport. You know, it would be almost incredible to anyone else to suggest that a spaceport is being built in the most northerly part of the most northerly isles in Scotland. But that is an area that has really taken on board the benefits of this spaceport, and it might not just be leading for Scotland or the UK, but indeed for this type of satellite across Europe and around the world. There is so much we could say about our island communities and what they offer to Scotland, and I think it's a great opportunity tonight, and the roundtables that Jamie Halcrow-Johnson and other MSPs have been hosting, I think should feed into what the Government will continue to do, hopefully, to promote island communities going forward. In closing, however, Presiding Officer, I want to say this. Scotland is not just about what happens here in the capital or our major cities. Scotland is the sum of all its parts, and our islands play a crucial part in what we are famous for, what we are regarded for, and what we benefit from in terms of how we can draw people in from across the world. Our islands, I believe, punch well above their weight, and I think we should be celebrating them as we are in the Chamber today and in Parliament with tonight's reception. But it shouldn't just be on occasions like this. We should be celebrating them year-round, but also giving them our support to ensure they can continue to thrive well into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Ross. I now call Rhoda Grant to be followed by Ariane Burgess. Ms Grant.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And I also want to thank Jamie Halcrow-Johnson for securing this debate, and also thank him and the Islands Cross-Party Group for organising the Island Showcase event in Parliament today, and indeed pay tribute to all those who attended today, many in the gallery. It was a pleasure meeting you and also being part of the day. Our islands are special places, and island living is unique. People have to be resilient to be able to live their lives buffeted by weather and transport restrictions. And they need to take these inconveniences in their stride. And that was something I had to learn when I was first elected to represent most of Scotland's populated islands. I remember I spent more time flying over Shetland before I ever landed there. And thereafter I experienced countless flight and ferry cancellations, a common occurrence for our islanders. And in the early days that was stressful. I'd arranged meetings, and those that I was due to meet were being inconvenienced because I hadn't showed up. But I soon realised I didn't need to worry. Islanders were used to this. They're flexible and resilient, and they live in strong interdependent communities. Every day involves collaborating, cooperating with others to get things done. And in recent years, the Clyde and Hebrides ageing ferry fleet have left communities abandoned. I had a case recently of a mother unable to get her children on a ferry when the youngest needed to attend a hospital appointment. CalMac's response was there was no question of mother and child missing the appointment, as they were both booked on the ferry. However, that begs the question of what was going to happen to the other 3 children with their mother's absence for a number of days. It's simply not good enough. Now the community in Barra are looking for legal advice on lifeline services and whether the inability to travel is indeed illegal. Many of our islands suffer depopulation, and it's little wonder if the government do not provide lifeline services that are fit for purpose. Connectivity in every sense is essential. While the roll out of broadband continues, we see smaller communities, many on islands, being left behind. I'd previously asked the Scottish Government to allow these communities to use the voucher scheme collectively, along with support from local authorities, but that was rejected. We simply cannot leave people to depend on satellite broadband, because while the quality and speed is improving, the cost is much more expensive and there is no choice in providers. Adding to these issues, islands suffer the highest rates of fuel poverty because they're off gas grid. Drafty old croft houses are hard to heat and need to be upgraded. That would cut fuel bills, as well as making them compatible with more renewable heating alternatives. But sadly, approved contractors are few and far between locally as accreditation takes place in urban areas. The cost of sending staff to courses for that purpose is prohibited, and hence small local companies can't carry out this work if it's grant-aided. And this cuts out local companies, but it also substantially increases the cost of insulation using a travelling workforce to the islands. These issues are not difficult to address, but it does take a shift in mindset from a simple tick-box exercise for the market to provide to one that understands island communities and works with them to find solutions. I hope those who represented island communities here today found it helpful. I hope it opens up channels of communication that allows policymakers to have a greater understanding of island life, and I hope it allows islanders to have more influence on policy.
Thank you, Ms Grant. I call Ariane Burgess, who's joining us remotely, to be followed by Beatrice Wishart. Ms Burgess.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I thank Jamie Halcrow-Johnson for securing this debate? And I'm sorry that I'm not able to be in Parliament today for the roundtables and tonight's wonderful celebrations. Presiding Officer, it's often said that Scotland is an island nation, but it's not. It's a nation of islands, 790 to be exact, some supporting populations of 21,000, others as few as 7 people. And of course, the uninhabited majority, which are home to vital ecosystems made up of Scotland's flora and fauna. Not only do these islands offer invaluable glimpses into our past, with sites like Skara Brae in Orkney, showing that the history of people in Scotland stretches back at least 5,000 years, but also that they show us what our future can be for both our islands and those living on the mainland. The islands show us that we can all live in ways that work with nature rather than against it, that offers a constructive community and cultural identity, a true sense of place and belonging that can sometimes be lacking in other parts of Scotland. And I've been lucky enough to see this for myself, be that at Aird Fada Seaweed Farm in Mull, which is a community-owned project and produces foodstuffs as well as non-plastic packaging and offers career opportunities to young people, or Hope Co-housing in Orkney, a community-led initiative that has shown a great deal of heart in its bid to build a supportive community for island elders. All of which brings me to the motion we're discussing today, and I share both the pride and the concern contained within it. But I must say that there are 2 common threads that it doesn't mention. Both of these underpin the unique challenges facing islanders. The climate crisis, and I was glad to hear that Jamie Halcrow-Johnson did mention that in his debate contribution, and the human rights crisis. Our rapidly changing climate is a major barrier for our island economies. And just take one example, more frequent bad weather is one of the biggest reasons why the ferries don't run on time. And when they aren't running, as they should be, islanders are stuck away from home and left out of pocket. Fresh food and other vital goods don't arrive, and the business supply chains get thrown into disarray. While we can't solve the climate crisis overnight, we can end the near daily human rights injustices islanders have to put up with, whether it's a lack of affordable housing or having to live in damp and mouldy homes, poor access to the internet, over tourism hoovering up vital resources like food and accommodation. To solve these issues, I'd like to see the Scottish Government properly invest in our island communities, pursue net zero through continuing to support the Carbon Neutral Islands Initiative and roll out their findings to other islands, design services for islands and communities first, and put human rights front and centre in its island-related policies. Islanders must be able to feel that their communities and culturally valuable identities are secure, that they can afford the cost of living, access decent jobs that support people to work with nature rather than against it, and get good education for the kids. And know that the Scottish Government is doing everything that it can to tackle the climate emergency. As I've said in this chamber before, if we can get it right for Islanders, we can get it right for everyone in Scotland.
Thank you, Ms Burgess. I now call Beatrice Wishart to be followed by Stuart McMillan. Ms Wishart.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and thank you to the convener of the CPG on Islands, Jamie Halcrow-Johnson, for bringing this important debate to the Chamber this evening. Those of us who live in the island know the exciting and challenging activities that happen around us. And within the CPG on Islands, we are able to learn more about life across all of Scotland's islands. Today, these islands are being showcased at a round table, a reception and this debate, which is an excellent opportunity to highlight their successes to a wider audience. As Deputy Convener of the Islands CPG, I know that today's events wouldn't have been possible without the hard work of the Secretariat, the exhibitors, those sponsoring travel, and lots of work behind the scenes. So I'd like to thank all those involved for making today happen. There's a resilience and community spirit of those who live in Scotland's islands. As today's events highlight, the islands are home to local businesses, innovation and entrepreneurship of all kinds and sizes, forged with passion and island tenaciousness, and in some cases developed from necessity, that can-do attitude that Jamie Halcrow-Johnson spoke of. Space is Shetland's new frontier. Unst, the UK's most northerly inhabited island, is host to the Saxiford Spaceport and satellite launch facilities. A vision born of an entrepreneur with steely determination who could see the enormous potential for Unst, for Shetland, for the country, and indeed for the world. Today's modern life is impossible without satellites. Think of all that you access on your mobile phones through maps and apps. And with growing global interest in the satellite launch market, the spaceport development is in the right place at the right time. Shetland's also represented here today at the Island Showcase by the Community Development of Company of Nesting, supporting local communities with a food bank, a gym and a business studio. Shetland Jewellery, a 70-year-old firm designing and manufacturing locally jewellery inspired by Shetland's scenery and heritage. Shetland Aerogenerators, a family-run company at the forefront of developing wind farms and energy sites. Their Borrowdale wind farm is considered the most productive wind farm in the world per unit of installed capacity. And Lerwick Port Authority, Shetland's principal commercial port, built around a natural harbour that has offered shelter to many seafarers over the centuries. Vital for fish landings, a hub for North Sea oil activities, and with a deep water quay for decommissioning, and any size of vessel, from small yachts to cruise ships, bringing in thousands of visitors. What happens in Lerwick Harbour is like a barometer of the Shetland economy. Other MSPs, as we've heard tonight, have highlighted exhibitors from their local areas across the island groups today. Presiding Officer, I often come to the Chamber and highlight the island's economic contribution and how we punch well above our weight. There could be an even greater contribution with more investment in the islands to support businesses and local communities. It would be disingenuous not to allude to the challenges that the motion touches on. Island living can be hard and is threatened by depopulation. This is an interconnected, complex issue, but one that could be addressed with greater investment in islands' infrastructure. Digital connectivity lags behind those in urban areas, and it stifles economic growth and education. Lack of housing, along with unreliable, expensive transport connectivity, deters people from living and working in the islands. In the Faroe Islands, the development of a tunnel network connecting their islands has reversed depopulation, and it's no secret that I have been advocating for tunnels for some time, as I see their enormous potential for Shetland. So to conclude, Presiding Officer, Scotland's islands might be off the coast, offshore, even out of sight, but they are a huge part of Scottish life, and like sparkling gems, we must protect and cherish them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Wishart. And I now call Stuart McMillan. Mr McMillan.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. First of all, I want to congratulate Jamie Halcrow-Johnson for securing this debate. I do note the comments he made regarding the islands, and as a Highlands and Islands MSP, I certainly wouldn't have expected anything less. I think the fact, we all know that our islands in the country are absolutely vital for the country, and as I think as all speakers have so far highlighted, they contribute a great deal to the country and also are not short of any ambition. I recognise the challenges that Arran has faced, and something that Kenneth Gibson touched upon in his speech. I recognise the challenges, in particular with regards to the delay in the delivery of the Glen Sannox, and I wholeheartedly support his consistent calls and those of local campaigners and also other MSPs in the Parliament to actually get the deal with Peel Ports over the line to ensure that the port at Ardrossan gets the investment that it sorely needs. The debate I led 2 weeks ago in the Chamber, Presiding Officer, with regards to the Peel Ports Conservancy fee proposals for the River Clyde had a unified voice from across the Chamber. We all recognise that the damage, that this actually would do for the Clyde, and that the Harbours Act 1964 should be updated to ensure that the stewardship over ports and harbours should be removed from the private sector. Now, the updating of the harbours legislation will provide a more joined-up approach, certainly with islands in the west. I don't know this. Also, colleagues from elsewhere might actually be able to indicate as to whether it might actually improve some issues in other parts of the country also, particularly also the islands that we're talking about today. Now, at the end of the motion before us, I'm going to quote one part of it, and that's but notes concerns that they can face many unique challenges, including the threat of depopulation, without the provision of adequate housing, healthcare, transport links and also connectivity. Now, I do not disagree with the comments at all, but I'll gently remind the Chamber that the depopulation is not solely an islands issue. The Scottish Government Action Plan to address depopulation, published in February 2024, highlighted that the Inverclyde is actually the most acute depopulation challenge between 2018 to 2028, and that's minus 5.1%. Now, this isn't new. It's been going on since the early 1980s, and certainly Jamie Halcrow-Johnson and myself, we've had this debate in the Chamber in the past with regards to also what happened to the industry in my community. Now, we have rehearsed it before, and I don't need to go into it any further today, but I do genuinely recognise the challenges faced by islanders and businesses and communities, and support the calls to assist the islands as much as possible. Now, I genuinely don't want the same mistakes to be made to the island communities that actually has happened in other parts of Scotland. On the transport links part of the motion, Kenneth Gibson touched upon this, and I highlighted it a moment ago. I want to address this particular bit head on. The delay in the delivery of vessels has not been positive for our islands, and certainly not for the shipyard in my constituency. And I know that the workforce of Ferguson Marine have apologised on many occasions. Now, these workers are also visitors to the islands, so they know how challenging the delays have actually become. And that's not the record that they actually want to have, and it's a record that previously, before liquidation in 2014, actually was excellent. So the current board and management need to provide a yard that returns the yard back to being efficient, and also it needs to have that strong leadership so that the yard, whether in public or private ownership, can build the vessels for the future for many, many years to come. But Jamie Halcrow-Johnson touched upon some of the challenges, but also the opportunities that islands have. Now, he touched upon EMIC, which certainly I managed to go and see that a number of years ago when I was part of a parliamentary inquiry, and it certainly was a really fascinating experience, and certainly something that you can only imagine it will only grow that economy in Orkney, and it's something I wholeheartedly support. But I'm conscious, Presiding Officer, so I want to thank Jamie Halcrow-Johnson once again for securing this important debate, and it certainly has been, I think, interesting, with particularly some of the contributions from across the Chamber. Thank you. Thank you,
Ms Macmillan. And I now call on Minister Jim Fairley to respond to the debate. Up to 7 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And I'd genuinely like to congratulate Jamie Halcrow-Johnson for enabling today's debate, and to the other members who have taken the time to participate. Because Scotland's islands contribute enormously to Scotland's society, economy and to our global reputation. And I've made several visits to island communities since my appointment, and most recently to Lewis, Harris and Skye to talk to crofters, as well as to Islay, Mull and Arran over the summer of last year. As a result, I've found an even greater fondness of the band Skippinish. Their lyrics and their musical prowess really do capture the spirit of the islands that I hadn't previously appreciated. But they, amongst others, like the raucous and hugely entertaining Pete and Diesel and the haunting voice of Julie Fowlis, they absolutely capture that real sense of belonging, of being at one with the land or in the sea, and a sense of community and family. And all of these things were so apparent and so tangible in all of my engagements with the islanders over the years, whether they were involved in tourism, hospitality, crofting, farming, fishing, or the arts and culture. There is an island sense of community that is enviable. But there's an entrepreneurialism that sits comfortably with that island community spirit. Indeed, island economies are built on that mix of innovation and tradition, which spawns from all over those things, from fishing and crofting to distilling and the arts, and of course now also on that list of opportunities for renewable space technologies, as mentioned by a number of contributors, namely Jamie Halcrow-Johnson at the start. And I know that many of our island entrepreneurs will be attending and showcasing the event this evening, including food and drink, which is a particular passion of mine. And as members have underlined, there is much to celebrate about the economic strength of our island communities. Still, as the Chamber has also heard, it is critical that we continue to address the challenges that they face. Now, this Scottish Government is committed to do all that we can to ensure island enterprises can continue to grow and to flourish. The Government is immensely proud of its islands legislation. It was an unprecedented step forward in acknowledging that our islands merit a bespoke legislative framework. Through the introduction of the Island Communities Impact Assessments, the Act requires public authorities to consider the specific circumstances of island communities while carrying out their functions. In 2019, we published Scotland's first ever National Islands Plan, and many of the commitments included in the plan concern island economic development. And so I was particularly heartened to see a sharp increase in the number of respondents to our 2023 Island Survey who stated that their business is expanding, and that is very encouraging to see. But I'd also like to acknowledge the results of the public consultation that we carried out to review the plan. Respondents told us that it is time for a new and a strengthened plan to be put in place, one that places even greater emphasis on delivery and that focuses on the things to accelerate positive change, not least in relation to economic growth. And that's why we're working now. That's what we are working on now, in close partnership with communities and the local authorities. The new plan will reflect the incredibly important role that islands play in Scotland's transition to a green economy. And during his visit to Orkney last February, the First Minister announced a £5 million grant for new harbour facilities at Scapa Flow. We've also invested £33.7 million in the Stornoway Deepwater Terminal project, which can unlock a substantial pipeline of green energy investments, and these developments must produce tangible benefits to the communities that are hosting them. Our Carbon Neutral Islands project gives communities a leading role in reducing emissions in a way that is suitable for their circumstances and creates economic opportunities. We've already invested £5.2 million in the project, and I'm pleased that the 2025-26 budget allocates another £2.5 million to its continuation. Now, tourism is a critical sector to our island communities, but it remains vulnerable to seasonal variations, travel disruption and, of course, unpredictable weather. That's why up to 100% of non-domestic rates relief for hospitality business on islands will continue in 2025. It will result in roughly 100,000 properties being taken out of rates altogether. And through the Rural Tourism Infrastructure Fund, we've invested over £4 million in island projects since 2018. And the 2025-26 budget maintains a £4 million of extra funding for island local communities in lieu of review of the Special Islands Need Allowance. It also includes £20 million to support Orkney and Shetland inter-island connectivity. Another £5.3 million capital has been allocated to the Islands programme, helping the development of critical island infrastructure. And we'll continue to work with local government partners to deliver the Cost Crisis Emergency Fund in support of the most vulnerable island households. We're investing £50 million in the Islands Growth Deal and £25 million in the recently signed Argyll and Bute Rural Growth Deal. Alongside the UK Government and regional partners, we are supporting economic growth among the island communities. In celebrating our islands' economy successes, we recognise the importance of our land-based and marine sectors. Agriculture accounts for a higher rate of business, turnover and employment on islands than Scotland as a whole. So we are committed to supporting the island crofters and farmers through a range of schemes, including the Crofting Agricultural Scheme and the Croft House Grant Scheme. But running an island business, regardless of size or sector, is not without its challenges. And Kenny Gibson and Stuart McMillan both talked about the issues around Ardrossan. I absolutely accept those issues are ongoing and the Cabinet Secretary is dealing with them. But I also agree with Kenny Gibson about the visit to Auchrane, which I had during the summer. It was absolutely fantastic. Douglas Ross, I very much hope he made the right decision when he was making that decision. He was getting pulled up for on the West Coast. But he also talked about folk leaving the islands, and that's been happening for generations. And I go back to the Skipponish. They talk about people having left the islands and then having to come home again or being called back home again. And that is something that I think I would very much aspire to as well. Rhoda Grant talked about fuel poverty, and I agree it's not acceptable that island communities will host the infrastructure that is going to create this energy, but then they pay some of the highest energy prices in the country. I do have others here, and I do apologise, I'm rapidly running out of time. Yesterday, we saw the introduction of the free ferry travel for the under-22s in Orkney, Shetland and the Western Isles. We're also to continue to invest in housing. Over the past 3 years, we've invested £15 million in the Western Isles, delivering over 180 affordable homes, and £10 million in Orkney, delivering 130. And our Gael and Butte and the Rural Island Housing Fund has invested just under £5 million to deliver another 31 affordable homes on Mull, Colnsey, Ova and Gia, in addition to projects delivering through the Affordable Housing Supply Programme. Presiding Officer, it is vital that we continue to act across government and to work across this chamber to ensure that our islands remain economically vibrant. We need to apply an islands lens to our work and be guided by islanders on understanding how best we can support their ambitions. So I'd like to conclude by reiterating the Scottish Government's absolute commitment to support, champion and invest in the islands, and a commitment to the folk who live there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes the debate, and I close this meeting.